Welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. Jenny, welcome to the Mind Chimp podcast. How are we doing?
Thank you so much. I am doing great. Very excited to talk to you today.
Good. No, I'm excited for you to be here. So let's crack on straight away. So I know we've spoke on LinkedIn a fair bit. You've got a book out which I wanna geek out on a little bit. But the first question I ask my guests whenever they come on the show is, what is your log line? So what would yours be, Jenny?
It would actually be a banana dancing change monkey. Monkey is actually not just because Mind Chimp is a chimp. It's actually something that I have been referred to quite a bit as a change monkey.
Okay, we're definitely going to needle in on that one. Cool. So I tend to ask my guests to pick a number between 1 and 12, and this number is linked to what I call killer questions.
Okay.
So pick a number between 1 and 12 for me.
3.
3. Okay. I don't think we've had that one that often, actually. Okay, so I'm going to give you the question. I don't want the answer to it until a little bit later on. So the question you have picked is, what's the one lie you are still telling yourself?
Ooh.
Okay, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. But I guess, Jenny,
good.
For them who don't know you, maybe tell us a little bit around kind of, who you are, where you've come from, and where you are right now.
Yeah, sure. Well, the reason I described myself as a change monkey is because I have, throughout my life, continuously started over. I'm born in Sweden, but I have lived a very privileged life as daughter of diplomats. So I've lived in 7 countries, probably been to around 11 schools. I've never had a job, like a one client type job, for more than 3 years. And yeah, like I have this innate sort of DNA of loving change, thriving on disruption. I have very unhealthy love of chaos. But I think all that kind of makes me good at what I do. But in a nutshell, I lived all over the place. I spent I've been back in Stockholm for the past 9 years now, 9.5. And prior to that, I was based in the UK for nearly 14 years. So I did my BA and worked in London for a long time, longer than here. And I finished my school, and I did 1 year of university prior to that in Istanbul in Turkey when I was 19. So it's been a whirlwind, but I'm enjoying being back in my home country and working here now. Have a family and everything.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot to kind of needle in there. So you mentioned kind of Swedish. I'm going to probably say something here which might end up, someone might want to set fire to my house by the end of it. But so when I think about Swedish, I don't think about someone in bright colours and bubbly and extroverted. They tend to be a little bit low key, a little bit more. And then we meet you, Jenny. You've got bright colours and kind of, you're very expressive and in the best way as well. Like, is that a giant assumption what I've made, or is that fair?
No, I would say, like, my perspective on Sweden generally is that it's very considered. It's, people, things, everything is beautiful. There's a lot of care in decisions. When I lived abroad the first 19 years of my life, I was representing a country which, in a way, I didn't really know because I hadn't experienced it more than summer holidays and things. So what was fascinating for me was that I was always known, like, especially in London, the Swedish designer. Like, it was part of my identity. even after, hosting receptions and Christmas parties and everything else you have to do as a ambassador's family. But I realized very quickly when I came back how un-Swedish I was for that same reason. I came from London with sort of a Mary Poppins bag of fun, creative projects, companies, brands that no one here had really heard of as well. So it was very much like, who is this wild card person? And that made me decide to continue working for myself because culturally, I had to find myself. And actually, in the beginning, I only said yes to projects and work that had the word Sweden or Swedish in them to kind of reclaim my Swedishness. So within maybe a month, someone had nominated me to the Twitter account @Sweden, which was then doing a project called Curator of Sweden, where like a normal citizen would have the account for a week. So I got to tweet as @Sweden. So my friends in the UK is like, Jenny moves to Sweden. Jenny becomes Sweden. So I did that, and then I ended up on the board of an association called Design Sweden, like a design members association. I put on an event which I called a Swedish production and invited like Swedish production houses to come and show their cool stuff. I wrote for 2 guidebooks to Stockholm, the startup guide. I got to do the introduction to it, like about Stockholm. And then the other one was more of, it was a City Times 60 is a series of travel books for creatives. So creatives, basically, it's curated ideas from creatives on where to go and what to eat and stuff. So I was in that as well. So I was kind of like building my Sweden portfolio just to feel more at home, which was a fascinating experience. But then I thought, okay, I've done the whole Sweden thing now. So now I can maybe try and look at other ways to integrate.
So what? And I know we've jumped ahead here, and we'll go back to child Jenny in a sec. But I guess what's been the biggest, the most challenging transition going from London back to Sweden? Like, what was the biggest moment?
God damn it! Now I have the answer to your previous question. That's an answer to this question. So can we go back to that whenever you're ready?
We can indeed. We will do. But I guess let me go right back to child Jenny. I guess if I was to go and ask, I don't know, a teacher or a close friend when you was in school, and say what's Jenny going to be when she grows up? What do you think they would have told me?
I think they would all have told you, that I would become some sort of artist.
Okay.
Artist or something social, because I think those were the two things that I was doing the most. I was making a lot of friends, and very quickly, considering that I knew that I would only stay in a country for up to 3 years. So I was very, very social from the beginning. I didn't sort of waste time. And the artistry, I think that's also, I think teachers can tell what motivates the kids. And I think like that, I brought that into everything, like the way that I took notes to actually art classes and stuff. So I think that they'll probably have said that.
Okay. And if I was to ask baby childlike Jenny, what do you want to be when you grow up? Would you have said an artist, or what would you?
So like child as in 6 years old, Jenny?
Yeah, I reckon so.
I think I would have said like some kind of performer.
Performer, okay.
Because I liked being center stage, but in a humble way. I was never. I don't think I was. If I would, find my Christmas ghost and go back like Scrooge, I probably wouldn't. It wouldn't mismatch my thought process there. But I think some sort of performer. Because when I look at old tapes and things, like when I was 6 or 7, we were in a ski resort, and my parents lost me in the hotel. I disappeared, and then they found me on stage singing to. There was one or two couples, pensioners, dancing to me singing "Like a Virgin" by Madonna. And I was 6, 7? So I think I don't know. Yeah, it's probably why I like the stage today as well. So.
Nice. I think there's something there, right? I think, and we can talk about facilitation a little bit later on for sure. But I think there's something around not making it about you, but you can joke about it being about you and stuff. But be something around. I don't know, be as a performance what we put on, I think, as facilitators to a point. It's a show, and it's not necessarily the big rah show, but there's still a mask what we choose to wear.
Definitely.
Okay, so let me think about this one then. So, what's the most vivid memory you have as getting in trouble as a child?
Getting in trouble?
Yeah.
Ooh. But I was never caught. Oh, I was such a good girl. I guess it was probably when I would have stayed out a little too late as a preteen, but like I haven't really gotten into any trouble that they know of.
Yeah, they know of. It's a good one, though. I mean, I guess, and the reason why I ask that is, I think about the book there and stuff, which we're going to touch on in a bit. And there's something that I guess I've read through it, and there's something around opportunity and risk and truth or dare and stuff like that. So let me come back to that. Just thinking out loud. Okay, then. So let's fast forward past. Jenny as a child and Jenny to today. Okay. 2 things. Question 1 then is, what's made you smile this week?
This week, what's made me smile? Well, my daughter makes me smile every day. She's 2 years old now, so everything she does is just either laugh with her or at her. But otherwise, like actually, I shared it on LinkedIn yesterday. I saw a nice little check-in or check-out question that's called highlight, low light, buffalo or something like high, low, buffalo.
Right.
High, low, buffalo. And it was like sharing something like a highlight from your day, week, month, a low light, and then something that made you laugh. And I actually found a video when I was Googling like funny buffalo. So I was like, I need to have something in my post. I found this video, which is basically a linguist going through how the English language is fucked up. And he did it in such a funny way. His main thing is like, well, English itself is like one giant meme. That made me laugh out loud this week. I thought that was really funny. But it was a weird way in how I got there, because in it he does refer to buffalo, which is why it showed up. But then I just got hooked, and it's quite a long video as well. And I was like, this is amazing.
5 days later, still watching this video.
Yes.
But, so okay then. So let me ask you this then. So you've mentioned your daughter, 2 years old. You can't use your daughter for this next question. Okay. That's easier. That's an easy way out. So you've got this jar, this memory treasure chest, if you like, and in there you can put memories in there, and you can go to that chest to relive that memory over and over again. What memory would you put in there?
Oh, that's a good one. I do like to revisit my 11th birthday party.
Okay, tell
me
all.
Why?
Absolutely.
talking, and also from like a daring perspective, what my parents did was maybe not all families would probably do this, but basically the theme of the party was ghost party. And I was turning 11. And our house at the time, in the summertime, we lived in the archipelago here in Stockholm. And that house was a big house. It's around 600 square meters house. And so my guests were my friends and some of their oldest siblings. So maybe the oldest could have been 12 or 13. And the youngest maybe 9. And they arrived at 10 in the evening, which was also highly unusual. I think it was 10, maybe slightly earlier. It felt like in the middle of the night. My parents started off with telling a ghost story around the fire about a man who had died on the island we live, and they never found him. So you never know, he might show up under a rock. Then we had to walk up to the attic where my mum had hung wet stockings in the stairs and the lights were off. So first we had to like navigate through whatever, our imagination went, like, what is this? Up to the attic where we had some cake in the shape of a ghost. Then the tour started. So we had to walk 2 and 2. Start off by going all the way down to the basement where my mum's friend was hiding, wearing a witch mask and like basically popping out and scaring us as we ran through. We went outside and had to go through part of the forest where my father was standing still in an anorak, a like World War II gas mask with luminous like these rings in it, and he was just standing there breathing. So racing past that, and then we had to go into the shed, soon over, the terror, in the shed where they waited until we were all in there, shut the door behind us. My brother, who's 10 years older than me, dropped a tarpaulin on top of all of us, whilst my father shoots twice with a shotgun up in the air. The doors open, and in the doorway is my dad's friend who's sitting in a bin bag, cut out face with flour on, like a corpse. And we had to there's no way of getting out without touching him. Back to the house, which was then lit up, and, hamburgers and, everything. And then the parents came and picked their kids up around midnight. And some of my friends have not come back to my house. I thought it was so much fun. My parents are nuts. I mean, yeah. I can't see many other families putting on a show like that. But it was the older kids that were scared. The younger kids were just like, whatever, this is fun. But there was some that were slightly older, and they were terrified. So I can relive that evening 1,000 times.
Nice. There's so much to pull apart in this. So
yeah, I'm glad I'm not talking to a therapist.
Yeah, sit back. So the experience of that, I think doing the research, I think we both have a mutual love for experience design and stuff. And you mentioned your parents aren't like, I guess they're not typical, if you like. They're kind of, that's quite a special experience. Is that a case of that's something what you've developed into? It's part of your childhood, and thus you're a kind of output of that, or is that just something like, I don't know? Is it a thing of what you've kind of been brought up in, or is it something inherently in you?
I think it's definitely a mix of both, because my brother is similar. He works in event marketing and put big events, and has worked in PR and is a very creative person. My father, he comes from the old school, and he's a Harvard fellow, and he's, it's very much lectures, and he's very, knowledge is your most important asset. And my mum's actually a social worker and a psychologist. She left her career to be traveling with us, but she's the empath and she's the people's person. So the two of them they have hosted some of the most amazing events and parties, and I've been a part of that life since I was a teenager. At 13, 14, I helped my mum with leading the hired help. So I would be like in charge of the kitchen and making sure that, the food was coming out at the right times. And there's a lot of facilitation in it, now thinking in retrospect. But I think it had to do with that, a lot of that. And then we are just creative by nature. I think, my mum comes from a farmer's family, but, all her siblings, they're musicians, their, creativity is a really big part. On my father's side, knowledge is like the thing. The thing. But yeah, so I think it's a combination of those two, and also me being privileged to see these different cultures and experiencing their cultures, because moving to a different city didn't just mean a logistical move. It meant new friends, new school environment, new extracurricular activities, new types of food. Everything was completely new, and being new all the time, you really learn to build empathy quickly. You learn to integrate quickly. And kind of like each of these experiences mashed up together is like a big innovation mashup. It's like, okay, well, what happens if you experience all these different things and you create something yourself? I think then you see how the creativity kind of curates itself. So I think a lot of it has to do with my upbringing for sure, and my love for art and design and that side of things as well. So
it's funny. I didn't know where to say this next question, but there's two, I guess, questions which it's got me thinking about. When I think about your experience with Hyper Island all the way through to where you are today, like there's something about the agility of it and the pivoting and the adapting and the constant adaptation, whether it's through I think you said 11 different schools, or I think maybe 7 or 9 countries or whatever. There's something around just being nimble and being able to adapt and kind of and move in. And then I guess the other part of me is thinking about, there's something what you mentioned really passing just a second around. It was the older kids. The younger kids were like, ugh, but the older kids were like, ah. And I guess I want to go there first. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the older kids were a bit more like scarred by that experience? Or let's rephrase that. Why do we still remember it today versus the younger kids?
I guess because, as we get older, we tend to lose our beginner's mind. We tend to lose our childhood naivety and innocence. So, they probably would have watched more scary stuff on TV. They would know more about consequences. I think that's got to do with it. And I also think that's got to do with, people not, as an adult, being courageous enough. Our past experiences make us. So who knows, maybe one of those who joined this lovely festive event, is scarred for life. I really hope not. But I think it's going to be based on their biases and their experiences, I think.
It's fascinating. I remember reading a study, maybe I use the word study lightly, but I remember reading something saying about kids, I think it's around about 7, where they start to be mindful of the world. Like children up to 7, like yeah, I'll jump off this bridge, don't care how high it is, like whatever. And then by about 7, they start to understand fear a little bit more and whatever else. And the reason why your story actually was quite funny to me is because my mum and my dad brought me up by scaring me on a constant.
Oh no!
Like they would hide around the house and jump out on me. Yeah, okay. Like in a good
way.
Not
like management by fear.
Yeah. But I remember you kind of brought a memory to the surface around. We were staying in Wales. This was when I was younger, maybe must have been about 12. And they pretended we was in the countryside in Wales, and they pretended that the car broke down. So they turned around to me and my friend who was on holiday with me. It was like, oh, you're going to have to walk back to the place where we were staying in this countryside. It's like 12 o'clock at night. The car's broke down. I was like, okay. So we're walking down this little countryside and my mum and dad are in the car, pretending the car's broke down. And then all of a sudden, they revved the car and drove at us. Like, obviously, they weren't going to hit us. But I remember this moment where I'm running down this countryside with my fast hands out as fast as possible. I'm just thinking, wow, even to this day, I still remember that. My mum's an absolute psychopath, absolute nutter in the best possible way. But yeah, like the little experiences of adding fear to my life is just, yeah, it was nice. It was like nice.
Well, I gave my dad a book one Christmas on great lies to tell small children because he likes winding people up. When my brother was 7, he was doing a science project and parents could help them. And he had to do a project and then present it in front of the class. And he goes up and he writes this. He's got it written down on a piece of paper. And he writes on the chalkboard this formula. And she's like, oh, okay, what's that? He says, this is the formula to prove that the Earth is flat. So basically, my father had not only gotten him into that whole conspiracy theory, but he'd given him fake evidence to go present at school. They were not happy about
that. Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. Oh, that's up there. So I had a guest. I mean, that's brilliant. To be fair, I had a guest on last week who was telling me about how his parents used to go on holiday, and he had to go in school and present to his teacher the holiday what they had in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
But they were, is it nudist? That's the right thing. So he went into school with this kind of whole collage of pictures of him like on this nudist holiday. I was like, that's insane. So like, nudist and flat earth, this is amazing. Didn't know my show was going to go that way, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I asked you a question right at the start, which is, what's the one lie you keep telling yourself? What's the answer to that one?
It is just because, I mean, I have lived an extremely, like, half my life now, I'm 41, half my life has been extremely colourful in all definitions of the word. But I still feel like moving to Sweden is moving back. Like, because that's how people phrase it. Oh, you're moving back to Sweden, that's where you're from. But it really is moving forward. So the lie I'm telling myself is that, like, this is still gnawing at me. Even though I can see through everything that I'm doing and creating and the impact I have on people, some days it feels like that feeling of being back 9 years ago is still here today. In 9 years, like, So I think that's a lie that I keep telling myself.
And so when you went back there, when you went back home, I could guess, what was the catalyst for that? What was it? Was it a case of
I was about to move to Birmingham, and I had all my boxes and bags were packed, and I was going to move with my then friend who had gotten a job there, and we were going to move to Birmingham. He had already moved, and I was going to go join him. And he broke up with me. So I'm standing there all ready to go. And that's when I thought, well, maybe it's time to, because I was working for myself. I didn't have an employment. And I was in the middle of change. I was already on my way somewhere. So staying wasn't really an option. And then we do have the flat that I live in now. We had that flat. My brother was living in that flat. And then, so we had a place. So I was like, well, I'll move back to Stockholm. And then that was the first time I lived in the same city as my brother as well for 28 years, because he left us when he was younger. He went to live in Sweden, stay in Sweden, whereas we continued the travels. And my parents, they were then retired, or just about retired. So it was just, it's a good time to decide to give my own country a whirl. And I promised them, I said to them, a little bit how, I heard you moving to Dubai, that I will give it 2 years minimum. Like, I'll give it 2 years. And then when I met Patrick, who's now my husband, my brother took him to the side and said, make sure that you take Jenny on holiday. He's like, what on earth do you mean? Of course we're going to go on holidays. He's like, well, because she's always lived abroad, her holidays have been coming back to Sweden and visit family. Like, I had not done the sort of sunny holiday in, just going somewhere just on holiday. There's always been a purpose. So, since then we've traveled quite a bit. We've been in San Francisco and Paris and like all over the place. But that was an interesting insight in, if you do that, then she might stay. You have to give her the perspectives so she would stay. So that's how I ended up here. It wasn't necessarily a conscious decision, and then it became one. And
so I guess that kind of moves me on to the next question then, which is about the Dare to Facilitate. Was you writing that book in London? Like, had that idea kind of come around in your brain at that point? Or
I created this book from start to finish in 6 months. So, yeah.
Wow.
So it started with March last year. My brother and his family have moved up to the north in Sweden to a skiing resort, and I was there. And his daughter came home from school, and anyway, long story short, they play Dare or Dare in school with her friends. It's not Truth or Dare. Skip the truth. We're going to go straight for the money. And that started mulling that over for a bit. And then I was consultant at the time for AFRI, which is a big engineering firm, international firm with like 19,000 employees, and I was running the internal academy there as a consultancy for a year. And because I was there for a whole year, and prior to that, I was on maternity leave, and prior to that, I was ill in my pregnancy. It'd been quite a long time with me engaging with the community and engaging with my network. So I had to come up with an idea. So it's very much strategy in doing just that with this book. So the idea for the book wasn't, I'm going to write something about stuff that I already know and put it into a book form and sell it. It was, I'm going to write a book I don't know the content of yet, and I'm going to use this as a way to sort of get back into my community and my network, because after AFRI, I'm going to need to find projects and clients and all the rest of it. So that's how kind of the idea started. And then I dared myself officially. I'm daring myself to write this book in 6 months. This is the idea, this is the concept, and then it just went boom, 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 boom. And I did it in 6 months, but I did have to wait on the print for a bit because they were really busy where I printed it, so I had to wait another couple of weeks. But so that's how it came about. So it was really just like, ding, I'm going to do this. Okay, now it's done.
So obviously, I'm lucky enough to see a version of a book. And I really loved it. I think before I even got into it, just aesthetically, it's just really nice. It's just a really nice book to look at.
It's quite a chunky one. You can see it in the video.
Yeah.
So you feel like it's something, which is great.
It's good. It's really good. It's really good. It's and I guess again, I'm making a massive assumption here, but for someone like me who's dyslexic and got dyspraxia, like, it's just a really pleasant read. It's not,
thank you.
It's not overload.
Yeah.
It's really nice. But I want to kind of needle in on the book. So there's a couple of things which really jumped out to me for it. One is the word dare. So in my book, I have dare as design a relationship experience, where in your book, it's like you say, it's around truths and dares, and double dares and triple dares. So I guess there's a bit where I did. So there's extreme rock paper scissors in there, which I really love. I've used it a few times. It's such a good. I guess
cannot not have fun doing it. Basically,
yeah. I've done that with financial services. Like I'm gonna make a statement here. People who are the driest. And the energy where it just cranks in a room straight away is amazing. But tell me a little bit about the book. So it's self-published first and foremost,
yes.
right?
So I decided first and foremost to do that, mainly because, I wanted to get it done in 6 months. There was a reason I had that deadline. Also, I wanted to choose the paper stock myself. I've designed the whole thing myself. I've artworked the whole thing. I've done everything with it, and I don't think I would have been able to do it within this time frame if I did go to a publisher. And I have also had feedback afterwards, when people look and touch this book, people who have published books, it's like, oh my God, there's color on every page. We weren't allowed to have that. It's like, and the paper stock is really nice. We had two choices, shit or really shit. I was like, so I had full control over that. But then also, like, I've got some really good friends, and, they kept reminding me, it's like, you're the one who sets the deadline, so you can move it. Like, if this has any negative impact on your health, on your whatever, you can change that deadline. But I pushed through. But having said that, during the artwork stages, so I've had two careers. The first career was as a graphic designer and art director in the communications landscape. So I have lots of triggers from that time in terms of like artworking for print. Not something that I miss, I have to say. It was horrible, like the anxiety. Plus, I have, as you know, a daughter she's 2, she's constantly sick. So basically, I was artworking it through sniffles and, brain fog. And she's like, I have to get it done. I got it out. Did a prototype, which was as good as a prototype, let me say that. And then, then I had to wait these like 5 weeks for around 650 kilos of books would land on my doorstep, not knowing if they, did they get the final PDF artwork? like where are all the mistakes? So that's why I decided to self-publish. And also I am a firm believer that, if your idea is good enough, strategy just falls into place. And I had to trust myself, and the financial accountability was also a factor in that. It's like, well, if I invest in this with actual money, then this will get done in the best possible way. Rather than trying to seek sponsorship or doing a Kickstarter. I don't even know if Kickstarter exists anymore. They've kind of disappeared a bit. Or any other way, except I was like, no, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to pay for it myself. What I did get help with was getting it written, of course, with all my contributing authors in it.
So I guess for me, when I think about it, so obviously our experiences are similar. So when I was writing Insightful Innovator, it was a case of I had two options. I had a well-known publisher offer me a contract, and I was like, okay, cool, I can write it for them. And I remember looking at it, and I remember going, so this book needs to be an experience, but you're basically saying this is I can't get that. Like I remember I was having an argument with just the front cover of the book, and I was like, oh, you're not going to be ready for my experience book. What comes second down?
Yeah.
And at one point, we was arguing about whether we could use a double paragraph or not, like a double spacing paragraph. I was like,
What?
oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just kind of went, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna write myself. And I was lucky, right? I end up, like, similar to you. You end up sinking your own money into it, and I end up having a proofer who could do it. But I end up going with Amazon.
Okay.
And self-publishing it through there. And that's been an experience, because in one respect, I'm like, I couldn't find a decent printer. I didn't know how to just do that aspect. So it was like Amazon was the easy fix. But I do wish, on reflection now, like, you know, I went similar to your approach. Like, I sourced the paper, I sourced the whatever else. And maybe that's what happens with book 2. But what was was there any kind of special process you went through when coming up with ideas for the book? Like, because obviously there's the truths in there, then there's a dares and a double dares, and I know you've got collaborators and stuff in the space who help with that. But I guess, walk through your kind of process of coming up with it.
I will answer that. I just wanted to make one more point about the self-publishing, and that is, for me, I didn't go out and source stuff. I had 2 books that a friend of mine had published through a publisher, but he had written in the back where it was printed, and it was at Balto Print in Lithuania. So I contacted them and said, different size and different amount of pages, but I want the same spec. And I've never received a quote quicker in my life, because they're just like, oh, here you go. Because they'd already gone through all that. So I've got him to thank for that I had like a book in my hand, go like, this feels good. And then I got the quote. So that's how I found the printer. I think if I had to go through all the, testing and speaking with and looking at, that would have just halted the project as well. So that was lucky. So the process for this book. So I've had a professional editor also alongside me. And together, so I guess she was mainly part sort of as and when. So the book is there's 30 chapters in the book. Each chapter has a certain theme. I wrote, so the truths are basically reflection questions to the reader. Just as we would be playing truth or dare, I would ask you a question. So for each chapter, I identified 4 different areas I wanted to touch on, like 4 different sort of categories. I wrote 2 truth questions, and then I wrote a double dare and a triple dare. Then I found the person that I wanted to contribute with the actual dares, and there's 4 dares per chapter. And I wanted those to come from either a subject matter expert in that specific thing, or someone that I know have a different take on the subject, some more unexpected or surprising way to look at it. And obviously people who facilitate within their practice. They didn't have to be facilitator by title, but they still would facilitate activities in and around these subject areas. I then actually wrote sample dares for them and gave them a specific brief on how I want them to write their dares, and basically said, use and abuse my words if you want, throw them away if you want. I'm not precious. I just want to give you an idea. And then so in some cases, it was like, oh my God, you know the way I work better than I do. Here are some tweaks. And it was a very sort of simple editing process. In other chapters, it was a complete retake. It was, well, I would very much like to talk about these dares, which I do. So I would rewrite the categories to fit those dares. So every contributing author received a Google Doc with the whole chapter in it. My bits had been pre-edited, and all they had to do was replace the dares with their own wording. And then, funnily enough, the other night, after I had one too many vodka lemons, I'm so obsessed with absolute vodka lemon right now, I started to reread my book. And I was like, did I write that? I must have written that. And it made me realize that, because during the process, once a chapter was done, I had a little spreadsheet. Once a chapter was done and I kind of ticked it off, it just went straight out of my mind, because I was then focused, because the chapters are such deep dives it was very much, I had to go back down in something else. So now by the time everything is collated, it's like, oh, I forgot about that. That's amazing. So I'm surprising myself in the book based on the process that I had writing it. And then one final thing on the process. So I tried to get all the contributors to send back their bits before the summer holidays, because in Sweden we have this thing called like industrial summer, and people literally disappear for 5 to 6 weeks. And across the board, companies shut down. It's just like, it's just the way it is. So I knew that I wouldn't be getting much back in terms of my collaborators during that time. So that's when I started looking at the design for the book. I started looking at the graphic design and the layout and how I would showcase. And all the imagery in the book is Midjourney, is AI generated. So I created a prompt that gave me a style that I wanted. And I could produce lots of different versions of this. It's like a sphere made up of different stuff. So I had time to do that. And then by the time autumn came, it was like, okay, the layout is done. This is how it's going to look like. And I started populating the design with all the copy. And we worked from a Google Docs all the way up until this point. But yeah, so that's how it looked like.
I think it's the one thing what I'll probably say with a book is, not with just in general, but like there's some books what are written and then there's some books which are crafted. And I think with yours, it's really crafted. It's a really nice experience going through the book. And obviously the stuff what's in it is gold dust. Like so good.
Can I have that in writing, please?
Yeah. I'll send it over.
Thank you so much. I mean, that was my mom's first comment, because she doesn't really understand any of it. And she just went, oh, it's actually so delightful to read. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And then I wrote a long note on the first page, handwritten note in Swedish. This is what you say when people ask you what Jenny's book is about. And then I wrote in Swedish just so she could understand what it was about. But yeah, I really wanted to be as accessible as possible. And also, like, some of the questions in it, they're big questions. Like, they're really, they need the physical space to breathe as well. And, like, even though the, like, crafting, because you're right, like, crafting these dares to be, they're 50 words, they need to be quite detailed so you can actually just go and do the thing. And they need to connect to whatever the topic is that we're exploring. Sort of like give you enough to actually go and do something with it, but also give you not enough so you can if there's an area that you've not really looked at or heard of, like, oh, future thinking, what's that? Like, how can I use that in my facilitation? There's loads of keywords that you can just Google. And you can look at the person who's written the dare as well, like, oh, what did they do? Oh, Planathon. Oh, what's that? Oh, planet positive features for companies. That sounds awesome. It's an exploration, and it's a playbook. It's a go dare, go do.
I love it. But speaking of experiences, here's another thing. So we both have love for experiences. In the past I've used smell bags to tell stories, I've used masks, I've dressed up as unicorns, like just constant. And then I remember coming across recently on LinkedIn the use of balloons. And this isn't me, by the way, this is you, so if this comes as a shock. But yeah, maybe tell our listeners about your talk and balloons and that whole kind of experience.
Well, I'm known for props. There's lots of smiley basketballs behind me, and I do Lego stuff, and even my friend Yorik's developed a virtual Lego challenge using Google Sheets and cell blocks and stuff. So I tend to use a lot of materials in my learning experiences. The balloons was, so I got the opportunity to talk at the Stockholm Experience Conference, which is a conference for experienced designers and UX designers and creative people in general. And I wanted to do a live truth or dare, a game show was my idea. And And then after, like, I spoke to a couple of friends, like, how should I do this? Should I invite facilitators up on stage and like play truth or dare? Or no. Then I got the idea from my friend Anna Maria, who runs a fantastic community, by the way, called L&D Shakers. If you're not part of it, and she said, "Oh no, the audience, they should all be your game show participants." And I'm like, "Of course." And then the topic of the game show was collaboration. And my spin on it was around facilitative leadership and on how chaos makes the muse, and that, in these distressing times, like everything from pandemic to war to everything, if you have a facilitator's mindset, you can work your way through it, was kind of my point I was trying to make. And to kick off, because again, like I don't tend to do one-way keynotes, the passive stuff's not for me. It has to be participatory. I got my balloon volunteers. So there was like 6 people who worked for the conference in the back row with pre-blown up balloons. We almost fainted. I should have bought some. I did have a pump, but that was just like my muscles did. But anyway, giant balloons. And the game was, or the challenge was, that they had to tap the balloons from the back to the stage within 2 minutes. And they had to obviously do it collectively, and they were not allowed to tap it twice, and it was not allowed to hit the floor. So that was a really fun, opening. But then this is also fun because I shared some images from it on LinkedIn, and a friend of mine mentioned something about Coldplay. I'm like, what's she talking about? So I just replied, give me this here in Las Vegas and I'll fill it. Like, I'm being funny. Google Coldplay. Did you know that they've got the balloons thing in their show? They released
Yes, I've been.
Have you been to it?
I've been to the show. Yeah, I've been to the show.
So unknown to me, I was channeling my inner Coldplay by doing this, but it was just a way to kind of make a point that throughout this chaos, we need to work together. And like, there's loads of sort of metaphors and analogies of, as a facilitator, you juggle a lot of balls and, stuff. But that's what that was. And it was a lot of fun. I didn't expect to be so out of breath though when I went into the talk. And then after that, I went to Mentimeter and they had to choose between dare or dare. It's very exciting which one would win. And they actually got to write their own dares on the subject of how can you create a more collaborative workplace. And then they shared those. So it was, instead of me daring people, they got to actually write their own dares to the other people in the room. And we shared them. And that was kind of the interaction at the end.
Nice. I love it. I love this stuff. And I think it's funny when I think about experience design, everyone instantly goes to the traditional experience design of digital versions. I'm like, no. Like Disney, experience design, nailed it. Alton Towers, even the donut shop.
I love
talk about
the company, the furniture maker Steelcase. Are you familiar with them? They do a lot of office furniture, and they're really big on furniture for learning. And they actually have a learning community center in Zurich they've designed to show how, like, for learning organizations, how you can furnish. And they have a model which I tend to use. I always use it when I design an experience, whether it's a face-to-face learning experience or a virtual one or a conference. And there's only 3 things in it. It's like a Venn diagram of 3 things. One of them is the pedagogy, like what methodology are you designing from? The second one is technology. So how can we leverage tech in the absolute best possible way to reach your learning outcomes? The third one is space. So how can we use the environment in the best possible way? And I think a lot of people, when they plan, even for workshops or even like a Christmas party, they forget about almost all of those. It's like the music is really bad because someone in the last minute has just made a Spotify playlist. There's the decorations are so because they've not really thought about the space that they're renting is, perfect for what we're trying to achieve. And there's definitely no learning outcomes. So I think, it's a way of looking at how you can design an experience.
100%, 100%. And when I was writing a book, which now ends up being 3 books, book 2 is all about experience design. And it's funny, I remember when I started looking at this, 2015, 16, there was no way of thinking about experiences because obviously, so I ended up having to create my own approach to experience design. So I looked at it from a macro, micro, and nano moment, like how does this level on top? But it's interesting that you mentioned space. So like in the nano of my design, it's space, sense, story. Like what's the thing, what's happening in this nano experience. So it's nice to see this company's thinking about space.
Yeah, it is. And I think also like, so one of the schools that I used to be program director at a communication school here in Stockholm, called Bergs, they have a developer, Patrick, who's also in the book on Dare to Storytell. Anyway, and I remember one of the last things that he did before I left was design kind of like a brochure of all the different ways you as an industry, like a lecturer or course designer, could actually refurnish the classrooms for different purposes. And that was a really nice way to help them get there, because otherwise it just ends up the whole traditional classroom setup. It's like, well, you can do World Cafe, or you can do a big circle, or you can, so that was a nice way to help people. And I think more like co-working spaces and like conference places, they need that. I've not seen that anywhere. It's like, this is the furniture you're getting, this is the stuff you're getting. We may be able to move something around, but that'll cost extra. So yeah, just saying.
Oh, it's funny. I'm laughing because it's funny. Just before I left my current place, I had to go through this big upskilling, and part of it was around how to sense make. So like audience interviewing, one-to-ones. I was like, look, just because one-to-one and an interview happens in the office, it doesn't have to happen. Like the space in which you create, think space, setting, and mindset is like, take them out of that. Like go for a walk. You're going to get more out of them. And it's funny because the first thing I asked them why none of them moved the table or removed the chairs, or how come we didn't go out of the office, like, oh, I didn't know we could do that. I'm like, oh, of course you can. It's just a space. Like, it is what it is. Take them out of it.
Yeah, it's incredible how people get sort of really stuck in the in that mind space. So like, of course you can change things up. I would, so with working with students is actually, and I do this in corporate settings as well, I get my participants to do it for me. So it's like they might come in and it might be set up. It's like, well, actually, we're going to do this, and go do. And then being part of that, nice. It's an experience because straight away they've done something together, and it's just like, okay, now we're ready to work. So I think, really looking at the space you have available to you, and being creative and innovative with that space. And, you can get lucky and be at there's a conference place in Stockholm called Happy Townsvik. And there they have themed rooms. And I did a workshop in a ball pit because they happen to have one. So I think, if you have the choice to pick a venue, or even set up a virtual venue to align with your learning outcomes, or if you align with whatever outcomes you're striving for, do so.
So I have 2 more questions, and then I think we're done. Question, I guess, of the kind of, well, it's 3 questions. The first question is, you've got a billboard, okay, and this billboard, a stadium is going to empty out the stadium. All these people, thousands and thousands of people, are going to walk out of the stadium, and we're going to see a billboard. Okay, and you can put whatever message you want on that billboard. Okay. What message do you put on it?
Well, there might be some copyright infringements.
That's all good.
Because, funnily enough, Tottenham Hotspur's football club, their slogan is "To dare is to do," and I was like, "Damn it!" I don't know. I would probably put something like "The daring is the doing," or like the opposite, "To do is to dare," something encouraging people to do. And funnily, you said that there's in Stockholm, in the center, I noticed a few times now on the street, someone has written like in big graffiti, just resign. And it's so funny, like every time I pass that, I'm just like, tick, 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 tick. Oh no, I've got nothing to resign from. But I can imagine, people walking past that going like, maybe I should, So something around daring. The daring is the doing, or something like that, I would put.
Nice.
I'll probably come up with something much better later on.
Yes. Yeah. 12 o'clock tonight when it just pops into your mind. So right at the start, I asked you kind of, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you mentioned like there's a performer in there, an artist in there, there's your friends. But as you know, Jenny, we never really truly stopped growing up. So if I was to ask you now, what do you want to be when you grow up? What would you say now?
Funnily enough, I feel younger now than when I was around 17. When I was 17, I felt like a 35-year-old. And now, and I think also because I'm an older parent, that other parents are a lot younger than I am. So somehow, like, I feel younger. What do I want to be when I grow up? Well, I kind of just want to get paid being me and having fun. So that's a nice goal to have. But I think that what I want to be when I grow up, I guess I want to be someone that still inspires people to change, and inspires people around that it's okay to change. I think a lot of people, that's why they're not daring to do stuff, because they're too scared of transformation. So yeah, probably something similar to, where I am today, but keep doing it sort of playfully, not losing the playful side.
Nice. So, Jenny, where can people find you? Where can they buy the book? Tell us everything. Sales pitch.
It's easy.
Yes.
daretofacilitate.com. And there you can find the book. You can find, I've pre-recorded a masterclass in facilitative leadership, which connects the World Economic Forum Skills on the Rise for 2027 with how you as a leader or a boss can facilitate your team in reaching them. So I choose the skill, and then I pivot to, okay, well, how can you facilitate that for other people? And that's in the form of 17 short videos with dares, and then you get like a brochure with some more information and stuff. So that's available there too. But yeah, that's the best place. And LinkedIn. I used to be on Twitter a lot, but I'm leaving that now, so no point in adding me there. But yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, Dare to Facilitate. I think you'll find it when you Google it.
Nice. Jenna, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
The pleasure's all mine. I love talking about childhood stories and experiences that may or may not have shaped us.
Scared us, made us who we are, everything.
Exactly. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll catch you later.